Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Connected Live. I'm going to see if a few people will hop on before I get started today. For those of you who don't know me, I am a holistic healer now for 20 years. I'll be 51 in March 17th. And I have always been one to walk the talk. I have had traditional education, university, law school, had a traditional career for a long time and came out professionally over 20 years ago when I felt I could do so credibly. So I've been very fortunate to have this 20-year long career doing what I absolutely love. I'll get started with today's topic. So it's interesting. I know everybody who's kind of following the movement of the Great Awakening is, when is all the fraud going to be revealed? When are all the lies going to be revealed? When will people get arrested that should be arrested? And everybody wants to know the timing, and I do too, because there's some out there that are saying, get the popcorn out, and they're all like excited about it, watching this theater. But for those of us that I think that are authentically empathic and really in our own skins and really grounded, we don't find any amusement or get the popcorn out at all. We find it absolutely excruciating. And I've commented on my page on Facebook, it's like we're in World War III. And then somebody said, well, you've obviously never been in a real war. The evolution of wars are very different now. This war is a battle between good and evil. It's psychological, it's technological, and it's medical. And basically what it is doing is exposing the level of manipulation that the human population, not just what's going on in the United States, has been going through for eons, if you will. And I'm looking down because I'm just trying to find words to do today's topic without while still sounding upbeat. If you see me looking down and looking sideways and all those things, it's because I'm just exhausted, and I've never really been comfortable in front of the camera. All this is just learned behaviors in order to help people wake up, get their health back on every level. I developed Connected Energy, which deals with an individual at the energetic level, the emotional level, and the physical level, because you have to address all three, because that's how everything has to work with where we live right now. Yes, there's an ascension into the fifth, 5D, fifth dimension, as they're talking about. And that's going to be a very different operating paradigm, if you will, but we all kind of have to start doing it now. And I've shared charts about what those behaviors look like so people can follow. And one of the things, I was listening to a fellow healer that I don't necessarily agree with all the time. But I was listening to them today, and they have some fame because they have a book, and they were part of the CIA mind control program, and they survived it. And I don't necessarily agree with the presentation of the individual, but everybody has their own path, right? And they are doing good. I've sidestepped so many traps with government and medical to never have been inducted into anything like that. And for years I wondered, why didn't my career take off, and why did I feel held down? Like, in particular, I worked for this one internationally renowned healer who basically taught me everything I didn't want to be, which was a great lesson in its own right. But when I left as peacefully as I possibly could, but I did end up running into these awesome producers, like within 4 days of leaving that team. And I was only business-wise. I wasn't there in training to be a healer. I was only doing operation stuff. And I meet these great producers. They want to know all about me. I just kind of decided to do my healing practice. I realized I couldn't do corporate anymore. I couldn't work for any more dark people. I couldn't work for anything that was anything but in integrity. And we got all the way to filming, and then they called this weird emergency meeting with me and said, sorry kid, but your previous employer basically said that he is going to apply pressure on us to not film you or not go with you because that's just the way it is. And I knew he had a vendetta on me. No one had ever left like I did and refused to come back. He always found a way to send gifts and give money, and he really is part of the cabal system now that I look back on it. Really evil and really dark. Maybe started out good and then just got so corrupted by ego. And he was going to make darn well ensure that I never got anywhere. So have I felt like I've been held back in my career because the forces of darkness that are so incredibly evil that are being fought right now don't want people like me in the forefront? Like I talked about indigo children and crystal children being systematically invalidated into A, either getting lost, B, getting sick, or C, and sick includes becoming addicts, or C, taking themselves off the planet. And I've seen that systematically through my life, even still seeing it. And so when I get to work with an indigo or a crystal kid, that parents put their confidence in me, kids that can see the other side, kids that have other talents like I did, I get really excited. And I'm still very hopeful. Like my biggest hope is that one day I get to do what my dream was, which is to provide after school programs for indigos and crystals so that they have other children that they can play with, and they can develop their skills and apply them to any other any profession that they want. Because one of the kids I worked with was very do I have to be a healer like you? No offense. That was really kind of funny. 15-year-old. And I said, no, of course you don't have to be a healer like me. You can do whatever it is that you want to do in life. Like, what do you want to do? And they said, well, I want to be a writer. I want to do screenplays for films. So, my parents are producers. And I went, of course. I said, imagine what your imagination can do with all the skill sets that we're talking about in your writing, and how you can, in your writing of stories, create wonderful messages and wonderful lessons for people to learn just from watching a great movie or reading a wonderful book. I said, of course you can use it that way. And that person has grown up at this point and has gone on to do things like that and done amazing work that's in the light. So I hope one day I get to do that, put a curriculum together and put after school programs all around the country for kids. Because certainly would have been helpful for me as a kid, instead of having to kind of go until the age of 11, get crushed, and then come back and rediscover it all and then come out to help later on. So with that said, I'm kind of holding out hope that the good guys in this issue are going to win. And, people are asking me, well, what can we do? Because there's just a lot of people that are saying, I'm holding light. And this is what this other, circle back around. Sorry about that. My ADD went all over the place. This other healer was saying, complacency no longer works. You can't just say I'm holding the light and hopeful and sit back and hope that everything works out. Everybody has to take an active role in this fight. And it is about consciously waking up, seeing the truth, being okay with the truth. And it doesn't mean that you're, hammering people over the head with it, but it means that you live in that truth and you live in that honesty and you stand up for it. And all the decisions that you make are made based upon love and confidence. So if you don't want to wear a mask, then don't wear a mask. Don't wear one. I know, like for me to go to the grocery market, they say you can't enter without a mask. There's 50 billion different ways around it. But at some point, we all have to start taking an active role in what would be called civil disobedience. Do your homework on this thing. I just posted an amazing video of this medical doctor who specializes in children and immunology. And he's like, we're basically more virus than we are human. These things are all around us all the time. He said, this virus is different, which I've kind of been screaming about. Like, this thing was definitely friggin' engineered, because how is it that ivermectin, a dewormer, if you catch it early, kills it? Makes absolutely no sense. Why do dewormers, antiparasiticals, work on this virus when you catch it before it locks onto you? Like, if you catch it in the early stages, ivermectin will get rid of COVID in 48 hours or less. So there are obviously some really weird things. Like, it doesn't act like a virus either. The way it creates symptoms, it's not acting normal at all. So clearly it's been designed, and it's designed basically to search out things like, I had a client that I worked with. I was really sad that I had to work with them because a family member, an older family member, a senior, had contracted COVID, and they were having these horrible symptoms. And I mean, I locked on immediately and I went, we're dealing with, organ failure, organ damage, organ failure system-wide. I said, it almost feels like septicemia. And this person I happen to be working with is a nurse, an ER nurse, very high level, very highly educated nurse. And I said, am I getting this right? They didn't send me a photo of the senior person, nothing. And they went, oh my God, yes. And I went, yeah. I said, when did the treatment start? How did they get treated? And they were told that, like, the things that they also knew to do that I've just talked about was refused by the hospital. Like, they waited until the person went full blown. And again, you start looking at the behaviors on a system-wide basis of how people are being treated, and you now realize, even though the deaths are low, 98% survival rate, why are people dying? It's the terrain is not right, and the treatment protocols, really fascinating. Just listen to a bunch of other doctors talking about the same thing I'm talking about, and they're all horrified. But they've all been staying quiet because, like, literally, when they tried to speak up about what they were seeing and about other inexpensive ways of treating this, they were censored. So my kind of logic to everybody continues to be, if they've got to use coercion techniques, if they have to protect themselves completely and utterly from liability by calling it a vaccine, when actually it's gene therapy, it's actually not a vaccine. It doesn't, if you read about it, it doesn't fall within the characteristics of a vaccine at all, but they're just labeling it that. So it's mislabeling, actually, what they're doing, and that's actually illegal. But again, they're getting away with it because, like, people, instead of en masse waking up and doing their homework and becoming informed, this is another consequence of the past year. Now, remember when this whole thing started, it was, oh, we just need 14 days to flatten the curve. Here we are a year later. They're teaching people not to think. They're teaching people to do as they're told, period, end of discussion. And they're teaching people to invalidate their intuition, so their inner knowing is being completely invalidated. So they're being told to hand themselves over to the external. Utterly, completely do as you're told. Stop being a problem. I heard that a lot when I was younger, and I resisted it always. And I'm glad I did. Clearly through this whole thing, I've been resisting it the whole time. It is exhausting because you can't just be a good person and say, I'm holding light. You have to take an active stance in this. Everybody does, because that's also part of the deal with what this Great Awakening is about. You can't act from fear. You can't be afraid of a fine. You can't be afraid of what other people are going to say to you or how other people are going to react. You have to just speak the truth. You have to live the truth. And if required, you may have to fight for it. I don't know if what's going to go down in the coming months will be an active war. But definitely there's just a lot of bad things going on and have been going on, illegal activity, lots of other countries involved in what happened with the election. There's a lot of bad things. Now, some good things are happening. A lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are starting to question. There's this really interesting movie. I'm going to see if I can find it on my computer while I'm talking to you guys. Apparently there's a movie that they did a private screening with it this weekend in Vegas, and I think it's called The Sound of Freedom or The Wave of Freedom. And apparently it definitely needs to be seen. I guess what they did was they screened it with about 100 people, social influencers, I guess, like Mel K and Nino Rodriguez and a lot of other people that are involved in trying to spread the truth. Let me see. Yep, it's called The Sound of Freedom. Found it. Thanks, guys. So The Sound of Freedom. So apparently it's documentary style, telling a story, kind of uncovering more of the darkness that's actually a reality. The 100 people that went to the screening were everybody from social influencers to people in the military, high-ranking military were there. So there is a lot of good things happening. It's just, I think when, the truth bombs start dropping, a lot of what's been going on is going to blow people's minds away. And so how do you, again, actively participate in this, which is learn more about yourself and do the work. Work with someone like me or somebody else, learn about 5D, learn how to raise your vibration, learn how to stay healthy, learn how to emotionally be healthy, learn how to stay in that positive place, and know that the side of light is winning. But at the same time, it's like little things, like tomorrow is Baldor's procedure. No idea how I'm going to pay for it. But you know what? He's my dog, and I have to find out how to do it. And he's not just my dog, he is a family member. So what I mean by saying all that is waking up to the fact that all life on the planet is connected, and how we treat all life is relevant. How we treat the planet is relevant. So when you see people littering and you see people not, recycling, composting, all those things, it gives you an idea of like the level of awake and the level of not awake. It's the inconsistencies that need to stop. And that's wherein the complacency lies. So every aspect of your life, try to be a good example. Try to be the fifth dimensional behaviors that I've posted. Try to learn how to expand your knowledge of your animal companions, that they are more than just a pet in the house. They have a lot more to offer than that if you give them the opportunity to do so. I'm kind of proof of that, with the wonderful relationships I have with mine. Baldur's laying right next to me. I told him, he's always said no to procedures, by the way, always. And I've been telling him, you're going to be Bionic Baldur, I think the $6 million dog. I just dated myself with that TV show. And he's really excited about it. Like, he's going to have better quality of life, and his leg's going to work better, and he's going to have better balance, and he can play with the puppy and do more. And that's part of waking up. I've always been awake, like I said. I'm going to share something that I think, today I'll share two things about waking up. So my whole career, my whole life, I've always sensed all the things that are going on now. I just didn't have the proof, if you will, of the great evil that's been running everything. And I remember walking into my first day at the ad agency, and it was like they were beautiful offices. It was a top 10 pharmaceutical ad agency, and anybody my age would have killed to be there in the position that I was brought in. And I looked over, all the cubicles, and all I felt was a wave of misery. And as I got to know people, I was like, all they are is an indentured servitude. And the taxes and the land taxes, the property taxes, the state taxes, the federal taxes, like the taxation blew my mind. Like, we're not free. We're always owing money before we even get paid. We owe money to everybody, and the government, and we line their pockets. And all that money, $700 billion recently, went out of the country. And like, why? Why did that go out of the country? 700 billion could really be applied here. And that was one of my first experiences of really kind of saying, there's something wrong with our system. And I was trying to fit in and try to be excited about the big job, but there was something nagging at me. So superficially, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad to be here. And inside I was going, holy shit, this is a death trap. And it was on multiple levels. And, I stayed there for 5 years and I eventually got out. And other near misses that I've had. I've just, going into this career to do my mission and purpose, while it's really been judged by a lot of people I grew up with, I am pretty dang happy. There's a lot of things I'm still working on like everybody else. But I know I'm doing the right thing, and I know I'm actively participating, and there's no complacency about me. And on every level I work it. And it doesn't mean, it's really important, it doesn't mean that you're not learning your lessons while you're here. It doesn't make me better than somebody else. It means I actively learn my lessons and move forward. Now, somebody just wrote me a note. I can't see any more close up, so I'm going to put on the glasses. Hold on just a second. It says Bill Gates. Yes, Bill Gates is the biggest landowner in the world now. Yes, you're absolutely right. And it's not just land. They're buying the land with the access to water. So if you go back to the movies of Mad Max, water and fuel being in demand, these like China and then Bill Gates, they're all buying up U.S. property near massive water resources. So they're going to own the water. And it's like, wake up. You know what I mean? And again, it's not really about sides or party. It's about who's catering to people that are trying to destroy the country and limit our quality of life and limit our freedoms, and those who are trying to uphold the republic and bring us back to the republic and get us off this crazy system that we got into in the early 1900s that's completely crooked and filled with money laundering and everything else. It's really, yes, it's disconcerting, but these are all the things that we all have to keep spreading the information about. Like, we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep trying to wake other people up. And I don't mean taking a beating publicly. You do the good that you can where you can, but you have to be as active and participate as possible. And there's a happy balance in that. I mean, I recently, interesting, I got some feedback, and it was really like it triggered a childhood trauma for me. And I got 2 sets of feedback during Mercury in retrograde, the last 7 days of Mercury in retrograde. And it triggered massive childhood trauma. And both happened within like 4 days of each other and sent me into tailspins. And I had to like kind of go dark for a little bit. And when I wasn't working with clients, I really had to spend time on myself, like figuring out what just hit me like a Mack truck. And why am I feeling so depressed and so sad and so victimized, which anybody who knows me, I don't like to feel like a victim. it doesn't work for me. So I don't want to go too much into the stories because probably those individuals will be watching this. And so I just don't want to deal with that. But let's just say I had to unpeel the onion and look at what was done and then have healthy rules, boundaries, and limitations with the individuals. And the first big part was kind of veiled, and then it revealed itself even further in the past few days. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, I see how that works. So, okay, I think I talked enough for this time around. I'm going to be taking Balder in. Somebody just wrote another message. Hold on, let me put my glasses on so I can see. Higher forces are working for the greater good. You can tell because of the kind of info that's emerging. Light always wins. Yes, you are absolutely right. Light does always win. You can have one aspect of light in a room of a bazillion amounts of darkness, and light will win. Yes. And it's why darkness is attracted to light, by the way. Not only with the interest of destroying it, but it's fascinated by it because light always wins. So again, I was telling everybody, I look a little tired. I sound a little tired. I heard some more news earlier today about stuff going on. And I just thought to myself, can we all just wake up now and start the healing? Because this is just awful. Can we just start putting these people away and in jail where they belong? And whatever the extent of the law is that they can be, getting gone with, because it's just awful to watch it play out. And there are those saying that a lot of the intercessions have not occurred, like the mass arrests and the taking down of things, because the evil side has threatened mass violence, like 20 or 30 bombs to go off on a certain date where everything was supposed to go down. And they were going to kill a lot of people in this country if they didn't get their way. And so the good guys decided to wait and proceed in a different tact. It's not that they're not going to win. It's just they waited to see if they were... My sister's on here. Hi, E. Eileen's always slapping me around when I get depressed. One of the people I talk to when I get down. But yeah, they decided to hold on the events because they didn't want Americans to suffer on that level. So they're trying to find a way to do it with little to no casualties. I'm going to say I just don't know if that's going to be possible, but we'll see. That's my hope. But we'll see. And as far as this disease is concerned, like I said earlier in this broadcast, it is different, but at the same time, it's more about terrain. It doesn't have, even though it's killing less than 2% of the population, it doesn't have to kill anybody. It didn't have to kill anybody. The powers that be have just handled this so horribly and on purpose, with mind control, behavior control, all in alignment. It started with, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, over a year later. And now they've got you trained in all these behaviors. And now really kind of almost like a Hollywood script on cue, there's a more terrible version of it that's going to be even more deadly. Well, this thing is killing less than 2% of the population. It's doing so because it's going after the terrain that's unhealthy. If we get the terrain healthy, then people don't have to die. There's more people dying of cancer and obesity and actually suicide and all kinds of drug overdoses because of what this has done to humanity is horrific. And so we've really got to start as a people really kind of pulling together, because we have handed ourselves over to experts that do not have our best interest at heart. And you can see by the flip-flopping and the lies. So we all have to start standing up and being accountable for ourselves. learning about what good health is, physical health, energetic health, emotional health, and getting with that, and stop relying on these external forces that really are red herrings. Okay, everybody. So that's it for today. I will repost this one. Again, I'm a little low energy just because, not because I'm feeling pessimistic. I'm just really exhausted, but I am hopeful, and I know we will get through this. It's just some of us have been awake a little longer than others, and we've gone through a lifetime just being so hopeful, and to know the level of what we're dealing with, as big as it is, it's really, it's hard. It's hard to keep your energy up. And I also, I haven't ridden in 2 months. So that's usually where I get all my anxiety out on, is I go ride the ponies and I go into the middle of nowhere and I see no one except for maybe some eagles and some birds and some beaver and whatever else I see out there. But I'll be able to ride soon. The weather's improving, the footing's improving, so I'll be back on the trails. Somebody just wrote a message. Let me see. AIDS has killed over 32 million people worldwide, and it gets rolled back to an epidemic. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, thank you for these great comments. You're pointing out all the inconsistencies. And none of it makes any sense. And that's where it's like trusting that inner voice. Like, they're teaching people not to trust their inner voice. They're teaching people to hand themselves over to the external. Just do what you're told. And we just can't do it anymore. Like, there's something about wearing a mask that, has not ever resonated with me. It's like a muzzle. And yeah, there's a couple of pictures with me wearing masks. I was trying to think Gabby's being a rebel again, cooperate initially, and then all of a sudden it's just everything in my body rejected it, and I'm like, absolutely friggin' not. And then the more homework I did, like the 1918 pandemic, people were dying of bacterial pneumonia from what? Mask wearing. And actually Fauci wrote a paper on it that most of the people died of bacterial pneumonia from wearing masks. He did a paper on it, and now he's telling us to wear 2 masks. Maybe he'll be happy when we're wearing 3 and we can't breathe. It's beyond me. And that the fact that the guy is still sitting in a seat of power just blows my doors off. Like, we as a nation shouldn't be allowing it. We should be getting rid of people like that, and having people like, when an ex-CEO of Pfizer, the ex-CEO of Pfizer stands up and says something's wrong with this vaccine, stand up and take notice to that. Because ex-CEOs don't do that. Not if they want to continue living and breathing air. So clearly there's just something really wrong and with all of it. And everybody needs to start listening to that internal intuition that they're trying to invalidate and do their homework. And the fear is the biggest thing that'll get you. The fear will make you make all the wrong moves every single time, and it'll lead to a much harder road. So you've got to come at it from love and confidence. And yes, like today I'm having a tired day, but I'm still doing this broadcast because I knew I should, and I had to because people are looking to it. So I'm doing it. I'm a little tired, but I'm hopeful, and I'm looking for ways to not only hold the light, but be part and actively participating in positive behavior. So there's one gas station in my area, one. It is a national chain, by the way. No masks, nobody. And it's not on their doors or anything. And they're the nicest people inside, and they have the place so clean. And yes, they are like cleaning off counters. Bravo, we kind of needed to do that. Most places were really disgusting in hygiene prior to COVID. So hygiene really needed to be addressed amongst people. When you read a study that most Americans don't change their underwear for 4 days, sorry to get sick, TMI, but I read that study. I went, Houston, we have a problem. Hygiene, washing your hands is really important. My sister brought that up too. Probably why the flu is down is also because everybody's washing their hands. And yeah, people aren't going to work sick anymore because workplaces were the worst. They would demand that their employees come to work even if they were sick. Now you don't even have a symptom and stay home. So, there are some positive things out of this. But that one gas station near Guthrie, I gotta love them. I go in there and I leave tips, and I'm smiling at everybody. And I was just like, thank you guys for not having masks. And they're like, no, we know something's wrong. We can feel it too. And we're not going to put muzzles on people that come in here. And it's just great because everybody in there is smiling, and they have like a little Dollar General next door, and they have, a really great selection of food actually for lunch and stuff, even though it's a gas station. And it's really clean, and you feel good about going in there, and it has such great energy in there that I'm like, I just hang out and talk to people because I'm just like, hey, I'm in a place where people aren't like this covered up, and you can actually hear people talking because they don't have a mask on. You can actually hear what they're articulating. So I go there every few days when I got to fuel up, and I just sit in there and I just talk with folks, and it's like solidarity. And I'll say, has anybody gotten sick from being in here? And you guys are a big gas station. You're a big chain, and this is a major thoroughfare. Not one person's gotten sick in here. We wipe everything down. We wipe the handles down. And if people want to keep their distance, that's fine. If they don't, we're not just going to lose our minds on people. And I just think that's so beautiful. So these people are like doing the right thing. That company is doing the right thing. It's Valero, by the way. And God bless them. And I'm really excited about them doing that. All right, so I got a little energy back talking about that positivity. Baldur is going for his appointment tomorrow. So excited. He is going to be Bionic Baldur. You're going to see him running through the yard. $6 million doggy. And the puppy will be happy to have his Uncle Baldur. He's laying right there. He's taking a nap. He had a mid-morning breakfast. Thor is also passed out asleep. We will see you guys all soon. Hopefully I'll be able to do some connected lives outside now that the weather is coming around to not subarctic. All right, talk to y'all soon, and thanks again for listening in. Please share this with other people if you can, and if you need to work with me to help you with your animals or your health or your mission and purpose, or even what this whole 5D thing is about, find me at connectedenergyhealing.com. All right, thanks guys. Bye-bye.